and we're taking a look at the AR-180. This is one of my favorite rifles. It's the semi-automatic version of the AR-18. This is a rifle that was developed by Armalite in the 60s as competition to the AR-15. It didn't take off, and the AR-15 is a much more popular, more used rifle nowadays. But I think for a lot of reasons, the AR-180 really gave it a run for its money, or could have given it a run for its money if history would have been a little bit different. And I'm going to jump into some of those reasons and the reasons why I think it's one of my favorite rifles. To begin with, I'm going to suggest that I think it's a lot like a hybrid between an AR-15 and an AK-47. And the reason I say that is the way it's built. It's very much an AR-15 style rifle in the way that the controls work and the magazine, etc. But it's also made very much, and it operates very much like an AK-47. And I'll explain first off that this is an AK-47 receiver. This is the part that all the rest of the parts attach to. This is sort of like the spine of an AK-47. And the way that it works, or the way that it's made, is it's a flat piece of metal that's bent into shape. It's then stamped and pressed and a little bit welded and riveted, and it becomes this rigid foundation for the rest of the rifle to be built on. Whereas with the AR-15, it starts out as a solid piece of metal, and then it's milled into this shape, cut slots, threaded, and then engraved to make it this solid piece of aluminum, which again is where all the other parts are attached to, and that creates the AR-15 rifle. So very different ways of producing a similar part. Of course, they're different shapes as well, but the major difference is this is milled and this one is stamped. And the AR-180, while it's an AR-15 like rifle, it's a stamped receiver. And to show that and to jump right into it, I'm going to go ahead and quickly disassemble it. I'm going to remove its magazine, make sure that it's empty. I simply push forward on this little thing. This isn't supposed to be a how-to demo, but I did want to show that the receiver is stamped, the upper is stamped, unlike the AR-15s, which are milled. It comes apart very much like an AK-47 into just a few parts. So the bolt is very AK-47-like, but in a lot of ways it's also very much like an AR-15. So it's really neither. It's sort of a hybrid between the two. It's a little clunky, a little crude, but I think that has to do with the fact that it wasn't given a chance to develop like the AR-15 was, or the AK-47 for that matter, over time. Very quick though, it's definitely designed to be a battle rifle, so it comes apart and it goes back together very easily. It's got a separate dust cover that disengages like some other rifles as you pull back on the charging handle. The charging handle is on the right side. It uses the same magazine body, but it has a different attachment point. For example, this is a Magpul AR-15 magazine, and the part where it attaches is on the left side of the body, where on the AR-180 it's this slot on the right side. So the Magpul will insert, but it won't connect. I could take a Dremel tool and make it work, but I'll just use this actual AR-118 magazine for the rest of the demo here. I should mention though, they do make larger magazines for it. It's a magazine well, like the AR-15, but it's stamped. It opens, as you saw, just like an AR-15 for disassembly, with a pivot point here. It can be removed and taken apart completely. Its selector and its safety switch are the same lever, and they're accessible from both sides, so right or left-handed. It's one of the first ambidextrous rifles out there. Let's see. It's got all of its springs and operating system are up in front here, and what that means, and this is one of the things that first attracted me to it, the stock can fold to the side, and it does so with simple push on the two plungers, which open up. It's just a tension on a sort of a nipple there that lets it snap back into place when it's open. Fairly strong, however there were a couple of different attachment points, and again this is not had a chance to develop, but I still think the overall operating system lends itself to be a much more versatile rifle. I can imagine this as a short barrel rifle being a very effective, merge between an AK-74, which folds this way, and an AR-15. One thing to mention is when you fold it, it does cover the safety, so it's good that there's a lever on both sides. When it's in the semi mode, you can still flip it to safe, but you can't get back up there to flip it back to fire. It's got same type of material up here on the handguards. It was only ever developed in the one length. It uses a similar bayonet lug as the M16, so it can use an M16 bayonet. Attaches firmly in place. It also uses the old muzzle brake. Another nice feature about the AR-180, in my opinion, is this scope mount. This was long before rails or anything like that, and what it is a V-shaped notch and a V-shaped tab here. There's a lock and a plunger, and I don't have a very high-tech scope on here, but it works for the example. I would push the plunger back against the rear sight, drop the entire unit down flush with the top of the rifle. It goes forward into the V, and then the lock comes down and locks it into place. So it goes back to your 0 each time. For these, and then what's neat about it too is it's open, so the sights would still work through the bottom of the scope mount. This is actually the scope mount off the new AR-180B. It attaches in 2 places. The original attached in just 1 place. But the new one works with the old one, which is nice. So, quick review of the AR-180. In my opinion, one of the neatest platforms out there. Unfortunately, it just never caught on. And of course, there's some negatives to it. It's not a perfect rifle, but it's almost a prototype. I mean, literally 20,000 of them were all that was ever made. So it didn't get a chance to evolve into a, with the modern rifles. But if it would have, in my opinion, it would have been an excellent rifle, and something that we could have made very many of because of the inexpensive type of construction. So the AR-180 is the semi-auto version of the AR-18. And even though it's not all that practical or tactical, I think this is still a cool rifle, so I want to show a couple of views of what it would be like to shoulder it. See right underneath the scope, you can get to the iron sight still. Now if you needed to remove that scope for some reason in a hurry, you can very quickly get it into a long distance shooting mode. You can just as easily fold it back up. And there's another view of it and its components. Very interesting rifle. Interesting piece of history.